video is to understand what is the parasympathetic nervous system and what role does it have in your health. Well, understanding the parasympathetic nervous system starts by understanding the nervous system or the central nervous system. The central nervous system has two branches. We have a sympathetic nervous system and a parasympathetic nervous system. This is branches of what's called your autonomic nervous system, which is essentially what's happening automatically that your body is taking care of. These are things like digestion, your heart beating, your lungs breathing, automatically that what is your body taking care of, and that's done by your autonomic nervous system. So there's two branches of this. We have that sympathetic and parasympathetic. Now, oftentimes, sympathetic is known as fight or flight. We also call it the gas pedal. So we have sympathetic, fight or flight. It's also known as fight, flight, or freeze, which is another way, essentially, once we get to burnout, but an expanded version. But fight, flight, freeze, or stress. And that's why we call it the gas pedal, because that's when our body is activated. It's pushing. That increases our heart rate. It makes us essentially on alert. It's what triggers when we needed to, from a survival perspective, run from a tiger, run from a bear, and we need to take off. And so that increases our cortisol and increases our stress, sends like glucose into the blood, and saying, okay, we need to run. High adrenaline. And so essentially what's happening, well, we'll get to that in just a second. So fight or flight, also known as the gas pedal. Parasympathetic is rest and digest. There's also an expanded version of rest, digest, repair, restore, etc. But this is the resting state. So if sympathetic is the gas, parasympathetic is the brake. And so when we're in the parasympathetic, we're resting. And so really the reality is we want gas and we want brake. And so neither the gas pedal or the brake pedal is inherently good or bad. Really, we want to be able to push when we need to push and rest when we need to rest. And so we want to push the gas pedal, but we also want to push the brake pedal. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world that constantly pushes the gas pedal. We either are pushed further at work, or our families need more from us, or we feel like, with all our kids and their kids wanting to hang out and spend time with us, and just the demands it takes to be a parent, but yet also trying to keep up with your own sleep or your own, things that you need to do to take care of yourself. And then we add that on top with, a very sensory, stimulating culture, which is, constantly seeing notifications on our phone, constantly being inundated with loud noise, lots of smells, all sorts of different things where we have bright lights, we have loud noises, we have big smells, and then we have all these notifications popping up on our phone, and then our kids are screaming, wanting our attention, and then, your boss needs more from you at work, and all of a sudden you have this mix. Or essentially, this is like the adult perfect storm, this storm of we're constantly expected to push ourselves further. And so what happens when we're constantly expecting to push ourselves further, but we don't give ourselves adequate rest? And what happens is burnout. And burnout creates sympathetic dominance. Sympathetic dominance is burnout, and that's when we are stuck on gas pedal. When all of these different things are constantly pushing the gas pedal and our body is exhausted, and we're not balancing that with the brake pedal. Whereas it should properly be done with you run from the tiger or bear, and then you get to a place of safety, you sit down, you rest, and that's actually when you feel the effects of stress. So when you sit down and you take a break, you actually feel that exhaustion set in. You feel yourself kind of winding down, but you feel that. Whereas you don't feel that when you're running from the tiger or bear, because you need to keep running. And so when you sit down, it's actually in the rest you feel the effects of the push. And so And basically, that's when the healing takes place. Another great example of this is with exercise. So, everyone knows you work out in the gym, you work out, but breaking down muscle happens when you're working out. And so, when you're working out, you're actually creating small muscular tissue tears in the tissue, which is creating damage. And so, the actual getting stronger happens actually in the rest. So your muscles are repairing and restoring and building back stronger in the rest. And so while we need to have to go to the gym to break it down, we also need the rest because that's when we build up stronger. And so when you balance that with properly working out, with proper rest and recovery, you come back stronger and continue to build from there. So, same thing with other forms of stress, where if we're constantly having gas pedal, if we only just worked out, you wouldn't see gains or progress because your muscles would never have a chance to repair and build back stronger. And so if we're never properly pushing this brake pedal, then we're not going to find proper rest, and therefore we're going to be worn out and burnt out. So this is this dynamic of this gas pedal and this brake pedal that our body is constantly working for. And so we're talking about the parasympathetic nervous system specifically. So what is the parasympathetic nervous system in control? So the brake pedal. Why do we want brake pedal? Why do we want to push the brake pedal? Well, the brake pedal controls resting, it controls digestion, it controls regulation. And when those things are disrupted, there's a cascade that emerges from that. So when we're stuck on stress and we're not focusing on the other processes that our body obviously needs, then there's a cascade of different symptoms and things that start to pop up. We can only ignore these other things for so long before we start to feel the physical effects. So when we're stuck in stress, we're stuck in high cortisol, high anxiety, high stress, and then we're not focusing on resting, digesting, restoring, and regulating. And when these things essentially are put on the back burner, it's only a matter of time before the cascade of signals really gets disrupted. And so that's what we call dysautonomia. And so dysautonomia is an imbalance in this regulation where we've shifted towards the gas pedal and we're dysregulated from the gas pedal and the brake pedal. And so really we see that as a combination of different stress in our bodies and then also like over time. So it's really a product of over time, our body is shifted into this dysregulation and it's not really able to tap into these other things. And that's when we start to see that we can't be in growth and survival and in growth and development at the same time. And so, what does our body start to compensate for, and what ways when we're only stuck on the gas pedal? So, parasympathetic nervous system, so it controls resting, digesting, regulating, and repairing. But how do we stimulate it? So if we know and we're all well aware of how we push the gas pedal, how do we push the brake pedal? Because let's be real, it's what we all need. We all need more brake pedal, especially our kids, but especially adults, especially parents. No matter who you are, if you're living in this world today, you need more brake pedal. We just need to be able to relax and really push that reset and really find balance. Like I said, it's not, we don't want to swing over and be all brake pedal. We don't want to be all gas pedal. We just want to be able to push the brake pedal after long periods of stress and gas pedal. And so when we push the brake pedal, we can oftentimes, as a chiropractic adjustments help push the brake pedal. We focus on stimulating the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is one of the longest nerves in the body. It runs from the brain all the way down to the gut, and it's in charge of your parasympathetic nervous system. And so different ways to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system is through nervous or vagus nerve activation, and that can be through chiropractic adjustments, meditation, tapping actually is really cool. One of my favorite places to tap is right here. And so that's really cool. Humming, gargling is a great way. And then obviously rest. Another interesting thing is what's called non-sleep deep rest. And that's essentially a meditative state where we're in alpha waves and can also be seen in meditation or in what's called brain tap. But there's different ways you can get to alpha. But essentially, when you're not yet asleep, yoga nidra. That's what I was thinking about if you've ever done yoga nidra. But you can also look at yoga nidra meditation up on YouTube. But that's called non-sleep deep rest, and it's a way to access that. So those are just a few quick ways where you can find space and time. Deep diaphragmatic breathing helps, especially breathing as a form of meditation. And so how can we find those? Oftentimes, what I love so much about the chiropractic adjustment is that on EEG, so when we're measuring brain activity during a chiropractic adjustment, the brain actually lights up in different areas. And that's so cool because it shows that the chiropractic adjustment does have a direct effect on the brain. And so it's so cool to be able to have something that can be quick and fairly easy to pop in and pop out and have it be able to make such a big difference. And so oftentimes the number one thing we hear is, okay, well, this brake pedal stuff sounds great, except for the fact that where am I going to fit this into my time schedule? Or on the other end with kiddos, well, that sounds great, except for how am I going to get my child to meditate? And so that's why the chiropractic adjustment is so cool when it comes to nervous system regulation, because it is so powerful and fairly simple and easy to pop in and pop out to get adjusted and not a huge time commitment. On average, the average visit, it takes about 5 minutes. And so it really is something that you can get done pretty quickly and easily and make a huge impact. But other ways that you can make an impact are, like I was talking about, breathing, meditating, yoga nidra, acupuncture. And then another one that's very fascinating is aerobic exercise in the heart rate zones 1 through 3. Now, this is specific and very important that you're in heart rate zones 1 through 3 that are aerobic exercise, because this keeps your body it keeps your body in a place where it's utilizing fat as a fuel source versus having to tap into creating its own energy. And therefore, because physical exercise is a form of stress, if we're pushing our bodies, it creates more stress. But when we're in these forms of low impact exercise, think more of a low to moderate level walk or even gentle yoga versus power yoga. When we're in these low impact forms of exercise, it does have a positive stress reducing impact on the body, on the brain and the body. And so it has an ability to decrease our stress when we're in low impact workouts. Not to say that high impact workouts are bad, like we're talking about, there's a time and place for them to build strength, build cardiovascular endurance, etc. But when we're talking about how we stimulate the vagus nerve, how do we stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system? How do we stimulate brake pedal? Low impact exercise is a great way to do that. And then even getting outside into nature, and there's what's called grounding, which is taking your shoes off, standing barefoot in nature, in the grass, and it really helps ground a lot of our just anxiety and stress and different things like that. So those are some ways to stimulate the brake pedal. What I love that we get to do here at Sun Life is we have neurological scans where we actually get to see different things like your HRV and muscle activity and even inflammation in your body. So we can actually see how shifted one way or the other way your body really is, so that we can measure that and quantify and then give you a good plan of success, making you a care plan on how we can help support your body the best. So I'd love to see you at Sun Life, and I'd love to check out your scans and help you properly understand, where is your body at in this system? Where is your body at in this pendulum of gas pedal and brake pedal? Look forward to seeing you there.